is the correct reaction to my name. Some of you might know me as Clive Rossfield from Final Fantasy.
And your first deadly challenge as the Warriors of Light are to take on none other than Garland, Knight of Cornelia. And though Garland is keen to knock you down, the four Warriors of Light are triumphant, and they defeat their first adversary. But they incidentally create a paradoxical time loop that puts them in the deadly foes of none other than Chaos. Chaos!
Yeah!
This game lays the foundation for many of the iconic elements we're going to see across all of the 16 mainline games.
So I think you'll all agree that it wouldn't be Final Fantasy if we didn't include art from the legendary Yoshitaka Amano. His influence and incredible talent and his original Cloud Sea Jin. This incredible piece is the showcase frame you've seen before. The transparent frame allows us to show off the art with minimal distractions from mechanics and text. You can really immerse yourself and truly appreciate the details of Amano's mark making and masterful washes of ink.
And then the next card on our Final Fantasy Through the Ages bonus sheet is SRAM. Red-White, of course, is a prolific archetype within Magic, all revolving around equipment, and we think this is a brand new way to be able to collect beautiful artwork by Yoshitaka Amano and play both of these copies of Therian alongside each other on the battlefield.
Thank you very much. And also, thank you for everyone here right now who's oohing and ahhing in exactly the right places. It really validates all their work. So thank you so much. I am eager to see more cards. And it's written down here, it says, I am as eager as a beaver. Gavin, explain.
I want to give a big shout out to Yanni Skolnick, who led the early vision design of the set. And when he handed it off to me, there's a card in there called Commune with Beavers. And I was like, Yanni, you gotta tell me what's going on with this card. And he told me the story about talking with beavers, get the information that you need. And I was like, we have to preserve this. So it stayed the whole way through the entire life cycle of this set. Now, to me, this is a great blending of Magic and Final Fantasy, because a Commune spell in Magic looks at your top few cards for a card, and so it kind of blends the flavor of Final Fantasy, the name Commune with Beavers, with a Magic effect, where of course it looks at your top few cards for a beaver or any other creature you might want to have around.
Brought up crystals, right? We're going to talk about crystals a lot throughout the show, and it is a signature element of Final Fantasy. So in Final Fantasy III, our characters are going to go on a journey, the Onion Knights that become the Warriors of Light, go on a journey to bring balance to the elemental crystals across the land, just as the Golden people prophesied. And so we were talking about how we were going to bring this element into Magic the Gathering, and we decided that, well, there's 4 elemental crystals, and there are the dark crystals in the malevolent world of darkness. Perhaps we smell a cycle. So, let's take a little bit more look at the darkness crystal. Daniel, I want to hear about the tiny crystal we see here.
Yeah, as Dylan mentioned, crystals are so prominent within Final Fantasy that it only made sense when working on the set symbol, but that was the first spot we went. You'll see the Chocobo later in Commander, we'll talk about that when we get there, but you can see this rarity symbol here is the crystal. Gavin, you want to talk about the card?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as was mentioned earlier, yeah, well, there's the nice Booster Fun version, and by the way, what I was about to say, there's 5 crystals in the set, 1 for each color, and they all have a cool Booster Fun version like this you can go collect. Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, if you're playing Final Fantasy, there's, once again, these huge epic battles, but you also want some simple little concepts, especially at Common, like this Adventurer's Inn. So, this is a brand new land subtype. This is a town. You'll find towns all throughout the set in Final Fantasy.
Your sword, and you become a paladin, and then you have to fight yourself in this 1v1 battle to come to terms with your darkness, slay your inner evils, and truly become a paladin. And so this story was so important to me personally. It's something that made me fall in love with Final Fantasy, and it was a story that we, I think, did a pretty good job of.
Only card.
I love everyone here so much.
Cecil is not the only card that we wanted to design for Final Fantasy IV, and a character that posed a lot of trouble for me was Kain. I kept trying to design Kain, I could not figure out how to do it, and then one day...
Which tier is this cheeky boy in?
One!
Gilgamesh Gilgamesh is clearly the top tier. This is a recurring villain who plays kind of the comic relief in the game. He has a passion for weapons, and that's exactly what his card does. It's a titanic ability. If you're familiar with Magic, a Titan ability is enters and attacks. He searches for those equipment. He looks at the top 6 cards of your library, gets all of those equipment onto the battlefield. And then you pick one of them, it keeps going. One of them goes for free onto any samurai you control, whether it's from Kamigawa, whether it's Gilgamesh himself. Snaps onto that samurai and gets to fighting.
An example of that is in Bart's and And Bart's and Boko have a very interesting ability. And that is Affinity for Birds. So Affinity is a long-time Magic mechanic that's been around for more than 20 years. And this is a way in which we're able to build specific themed decks within the set to encourage you to play. Perhaps there is a Chocobo deck that you can build from the set. And then when they come into play, each other bird you control deals damage to your opponents, which we think will be pretty fun in limited.
Yeah, I gotta say, in our internal testing, I was always on Team Birds. I loved it in Standard. You can take like your Bloomborough birds and your Chocobos and put them together to make a cool deck. So count me in as a bird fan. Go Birds.
Just as a vibe check, have we got any bird fans in the audience? I like you so much. Okay, moving on. Final Fantasy VI.
That was pretty quiet.
I said, sorry, I don't think you heard me. I said Final Fantasy VI. Daniel, Final Fantasy VI is the first of 4 games that have commander decks. Is that correct?
That's true, we get to talk about Commander. This is the first of 4 Commander decks. Commander decks, if you're not familiar, are 100-card pre-constructed decks. When you buy this deck, it will be completely themed around Final Fantasy VI as the other games when we get to them.
Pretty cool. Do you want to show us a little bit how summons might work in this game?
Well, it wouldn't be Final Fantasy without summons. With Magic the Gathering Final Fantasy, we introduced it as Saga Creatures. These are both creatures and sagas. So you'll get your creature out, summon Esper Valagramande, has haste, so it'll attack right away. But as the turns pass, you'll take down, get those abilities. The first one, you're going to be pulling resources from all graveyards, all those non-creature spells, and over time you're going to get mana to cast those spells. And at the end of the chapter, it's going to go away in an epic conclusion.
Wow. So, do we have any Terra fans in the audience? I like Terra Helder Pope, but here's the card. I think we've shown it. She looks pretty good, right? Here's Stephanie to tell us a little bit more.
Thanks, Ben. You may have noticed that there is something very special about these 2 paintings. In our Final Fantasy Artist Series, we've invited 9 incredible artists from Square Enix to illustrate any character from the Final Fantasy franchise. They were not limited to the series that they worked on, but invited to illustrate any character, especially ones that they have always wanted to paint.
Wow, that's Quasi. That's not in the cards, I just said that myself. There are obviously some amazing cards. Let's get to it, Gavin. Let's show us one.
All right, well, we left out the characters in Final Fantasy VII, of course. So how about Cloud? We knew we had to do Cloud. Obviously, we were going to do Cloud, but what was Cloud going to do? How are we going to make him a card that was worthy of the Cloud mantle? So there's a lot of really powerful stuff you can do with Cloud. This card is incredible and well worthy of being Cloud. Now you might be wondering, what is Cloud going to be going to find? What kind of stuff might you want to find with Cloud? Well, there's a card in the set called Buster Sword. That's some pretty good news, right? Would you all like to see the Buster Sword? Well, I'm not going to show it to you. You can stay tuned to find out what the Buster Sword does in the days to come, but I can tell you that it's 3 mana, curves right off of a cloud, and it's pretty good on Cloud himself.
Ah, not showing it to us. Quite literally the definition of a double-edged sword. Zakil, what's next?
Our next card, in my opinion, is one of the most iconic characters in video game history. Excitement, joy, and terror to millions of fans around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to introduce to you, illustrated by none other than Tetsuya Nomura, Sephiroth. So Stephanie mentioned earlier that there were 9 artists from Square Enix who created illustrations exclusively for this project. One of those artists, of course, was Tetsuya Nomura.
Final Fantasy VII. Here's one. Dylan.
We're going to talk about the story of Sephiroth and Cloud. Of course, we're going to talk about Aerith herself. So here you can see Aerith is the white mage and queen of the party. She's here to protect you, she's here to heal you, and she has a third ability that may or may not be related to a story beat. So if you're a fan, let us know if that happens to be relevant or not. I'm not sure myself.
Yeah. Spoiler alert on that card for some reason. Okay, let's moving on.
We see this beautiful version of the Flower Girl herself. But we're not just going to talk about Aerith today, we're also going to talk about Tifa! So we see 2 Tifas here, and I actually see a Tifa here in the front row. You look fantastic. The one on the left here is Tifa Lockhart. This is her main set card, and I just want to personally attest. I have won so many games in-house with this card, and I've lost even more games against this card. She is very, very powerful.
So, as you guessed, there is a full Final Fantasy VII Commander deck, led by none other than Cloud himself. This deck is an equipment deck with that sub-theme of Power 7 or greater, so in this deck you'll find every party member you come to expect, maybe some villains in here as well. Well, as Renoa once said, he's the best looking guy here, it's Squall. He's a bit of a lone wolf character, so that's what his abilities represent. With that rough divide, whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets double strike. Why is that important? The second ability, whenever he deals damage to a player, you get to return any non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You got double strike, you're doing that twice. I think we have a booster fund version to show as well with that full art. Yeah, there it is. And I did mention Renoa at the beginning, Zakil. Maybe we should show her card?
Yeah. Here we have... Renoa is a close friend of Squall, and mechanically is known for battling alongside her dog, Angelo. So it would only be right for her to have the ability Angelo Cannon in combat. And when you attack, if you have a very large party, you get a buff. Angelo, any target creature you control, specifically Angelo, gets a huge buff. So he will come in hot, so get ready. And I think next we're going to be looking at the villain of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, enough with these heroes. Let's go on to the real hero of Final Fantasy VIII, and that is Ultimecia. We did something very special on this card. It's the first card in Magic's history to be an uncommon that takes an extra turn.
Kuja! Yes!
What we're going to look at is one of the antagonists from Final Fantasy IX, and that is Kuja Genome Sorcerer. Now, his illustration depicts a scene in which he is summoning an army of black mages against our heroes. He is also the head of the black-red archetype within the set that focuses on black mages, and he has 2 forms. At the end of each end step, he summons wizards to the battlefield. Once you have 4 more, he transforms into his more powerful version, Trance Kuja, that doubles the damage of all wizards to players or permanents you control. And check out that beautiful wizard token. Up next, we have a card for the Magic fans. We haven't shown any Final Fantasy Through the Ages bonus sheet cards. Check out this reprint of Ragavan and Nimble Pilferer as Zidane Tribal. Gavin, who else from Final Fantasy IX is in this set?
Well, as a huge 9 fan, I'm really... I was hoping open for everybody. Here's Vivi. All right, so a little bit of black mages going on right here, right? We saw black mages a moment ago. When you cast a non-creature spell, you ping them, but Vivi's a little more curious than that. Wants to get +1/+1 counters and then generate you mana equal to Vivi's power.
As you can't have Final Fantasy X. For those who don't know, Yuta is a summoner that travels through Spira alongside her guardians, and her main mechanical ability is the power to summon Aeons onto the battlefield to aid her in battle. So this card focuses entirely on interacting with the Saga creatures in the set, resurrecting summons from the graveyard each turn, as well as buffing them while they are on the battlefield during your turn. And check out this beautiful borderless treatment as well.
Gorgeous. And from the summoner to the summoned, let's see one of the most iconic. How does this one work?
This is the correct reaction for Bahamut. Now, when I was a kid, if you asked me to picture the coolest possible thing I could ever think of, I would get to Bahamut very fast. So when we concepted this card, the conceptor, the artist, and the art director, we all agreed we had to capture the aura of Bahamut and put it into this card. So we see the moment, the first time you summon it in-game, and if you look at the flavor word Mega Flare, you get to that overdrive, and you know the game will be over.
So, also, this game has some of the most beautiful vistas in all of Final Fantasy. Let's show off some cool lands.
So, I mentioned some of those rare towns earlier. This is part of a 5-card cycle, one for each color, and for 5 different games. This is Zanarkand Ancient Metropolis. This does something we've never done before, which is put an adventure on a land. These are the only 5 adventures in the set. They're on the cycle of 5 lands, and it's a great flavor fit because they are all things that happen in that location.
I was just having the time of my life. Monsters. Let's talk about potentially the most notorious monster in that game. Just as a quick recap, if you don't know the story behind this character, this is a nigh unbeatable super boss endgame for the toughest of alliances with the best gear, and even then it was very difficult to even approach taking down. If you take a look at his card, I wonder what kind of time you will have when you go up against him.
Now from something absolutely terrifying to something a little cuter. Let's talk about the dragoons.
Where my dragoons at in Final Fantasy XI? We all remember our wyverns. I love this little guy. I spent so much time trying to go after this advanced job specifically because I love the idea of having the wyvern. And so that's what Final Fantasy is about.
There's one more. You got something to show us, right, Zakir?
Yes, we talked about monsters, talked about
Let's go!
Let's talk about everyone's favorite NPC, the original Taro Black Mage from Final Fantasy XI, Shan Todo. Now, Shan Todo is the flagship uncommon, signpost uncommon within the set that focuses on spell slinging. When you cast non-creature spells, she gets buffs on the battlefield, and then if you cast anything that costs more than 4, you get to draw a card, which is very powerful.
In the intro, we learned the Arcadian Empire.
My wife!
And we meet our heroes 2 years thereafter. We're introduced to Vaughn, Princess Ashe, and of course, Balthayer and Franz. Love to show you this card. This is a commander deck I'm building immediately when this set comes out. And so, of course, as Sky Pirates, they will care about piloting the Straw, going up against, and hopefully winning the game very fast.
Fang and Vanille. So here we are, Fang and Vanille. Now, if you know the story of Final Fantasy XIII, these two characters are searching for each other, and they eventually find each other, and they do that well in the game, right? So when Vanille comes into play, you mill some cards, you get someone back, you get Fang, Fang wants up to the graveyard, and then you get to draw cards. But, toward the end of the game, you might know that they fuse into Ragnarok. And so the meld ability here actually allows you to turn the cards over and turn them into Ragnarok. They're both uncommon, so you can do this in draft. And let me tell you, if you get off Ragnarok, you are going to win. It is a very, very cool moment, and literally the perfect encapsulation of these two characters.
Like Dylan, and it sounds like a lot of you, when I was first assigned this project, I never actually played Final Fantasy XIV. So naturally, over the next month, I put 200 hours in with my best friend. Getting all the way to Shadowbringers, I played Dancer and Black Mage for those curious. And I had to get Hildebrand Vanderbilt into this set. It was so important to be be genuine to the fans because you can play the entire campaign of Final Fantasy XIV and not even see this lovable character. This card itself refers to his first chapter, The Rise and Fall of Gentlemen, where there are plenty of zombies, and Hildebrand is not dead after all. You can find Hildebrand and all the other Scions in the Final Fantasy XIV Commander deck, led by none other than Y'shtola herself. Where as you cast your non-creature spells with mana value 3 or greater, you're going to drain the table, draw cards, and continue controlling the game, as long as you manage those cooldowns. Enjoy the deck, please.
You know, one of my favorite things about Final Fantasy XIV are the summons.
Yeah, so let's talk about one you all might recognize, Summon Primal Odin. If you've gone up against this in 14, you know you're in for a tough time. Odin likes killing stuff. Let's start with that first chapter. Blows up one of your opponent's creatures. That's neat. It's the second chapter where things get really gnarly. If you know Odin, you know you do not want to get hit by this attack. It will take you out. It'll take out your whole party. If Odin hits you during the second chapter, you lose the game. Do not get hit by Odin's second chapter. It is bad. If you survive that, if your creatures perhaps block by a little bit of time, you still have to contend with the third chapter, where Odin's owner will draw 2 cards and make each player lose 2 life. Perhaps they'll even draw another Odin. Now earlier I mentioned that there'd be some job select equipment from Final Fantasy XIV. So where are all my summoners at? Perfect. Well, here is the Summoner's Grimoire, another job select equipment. So when this comes into play, you make a 1/1 hero and attach it to it. Now, whenever that creature attacks, you get to put a creature from your hand on the battlefield. So it's like a little elvish piper for you longtime Magic fans. But if it is an enchantment card, it enters tapped and attacking. So that
Much of the major is the metaphysical conflict between Hydaelyn and Zodiark. So today we're going to show you one half of that conflict with Zodiark, Umbral God. He is a 5/5 with Indestructible God, and when he enters, each player sacrifices half the non-God creatures they control, rounded down. Now that's an interesting story element. If you're a Final Fantasy XIV player, you'll have to tell me if you think that is spot on to the story that Zodiark might be involved in. And here we can see the moment where I wiped every raid I was ever in doing this trial. I could not for the life of me remember this mechanic. I'm so sorry to everyone who was playing me. I was your Gunbreaker main tank, not using my cooldowns correctly.
I know there are people in the audience who are thinking, oh, there's one person from Final Fantasy XIV I'd love to see. Here he is, you thirsty people.
I mentioned before that you might find villains in the Commander deck. Well, here's one every Final Fantasy XIV player knows. It's Emmett Selk. Now, the villains in the decks play on a little different axis. Emmett here will cast spells from your graveyard over time because Ascians know their history, but they will still trigger all of the non-creature matters cards in your deck.
Okay, let's look at some cards, please. Zakil.
Yeah, so Noctis is the main character from Final Fantasy XV, and his most unique mechanical ability is called Armature, which allows him to wield the 13 royal weapons that come from his lineage that are depicted in his artwork. So his ability allows you to cast artifact spells from the graveyard as a nod to the Armature ability. And also, take a look at this beautiful borderless artwork.
Let's look at Arden.
But of course, opposed to Noctis is Gane's antagonist, Arden. And here we see celebrity artist Roberto Ferrari has captured his signature grin and his powers over the Star Scourge. And we actually see that we use that as a flavor word because while you have Arden in play, you too will be making your own army of demons to take over the world.
Okay, that's Final Fantasy XV done. We're finally here, guys. Final Fantasy XVI has arrived. I don't remember any of it. Dylan, what happened? Okay. God, we get it. You played the game. I was in it. Listen, I think it's time that we previewed some cards, and I know what you all want to see, but first let's see a character that is incredibly important to Clive in this story.
Yes, so this is Jill. Shivas Dominant. This card shows off all of her icy powers, so on Jill's side she comes in and unsummons a creature. Then when she transforms into Shiva, she will make one of your creatures unblockable twice. Then she will tap all of your opponent's lands, they cannot stop you, and then unlike other summons that go away, she goes back to Jill, re-triggering that Enter's ability to unsummon and continue using those icy powers.
Okay, now this is the moment you're all waiting for. This is the moment that I've been waiting for 2 hours. You want to see the Clive card? Sweating under that thing for 2 hours for this exact moment. Let's see it on the screen.
So here we To be clear, that is the correct reaction, yes. So here we have Clive and Ifrit. We knew we needed an epic card, and so that's exactly what we made. On the front side, Clive, of course, has Devotion to Red. Of course, it is the only Devotion card in the main set, but it fits his character so well.
Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 6, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16! Everybody, it has been absolutely awesome to spend time with you. I hope you've had fun. I hope you are going to spend lots of money on this.
Do you get commission?
Please do. Thank you for coming.